So I've been full-time door dashing for quite a while now, and it's honestly a pretty good gig. The only thing is there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve when it actually comes to maximizing your earnings. So today I thought I'd give you a little bit of a guide and show you how I like to do things. All right, just to jump right in. So after you've done all the sign-up process and everything like that, when you open the DoorDash app, you will instantly see kind of a map of your local area, and it'll show all the zones that are nearby and also how busy they are. As you might expect, it's generally just gonna be most busy around meal times, especially dinner time, but breakfast and lunch as well. And it's really a good idea to DoorDash when it is busy. It'll give you a scale from not at all busy, which you can't even DoorDash during, and then just a little bit busy, busy, and very busy. And it's definitely good to at least be dashing while it is busy, just so you're not waiting around waiting for orders. You'll notice there's two different ways to dash. You can earn by order or you can earn by time. I recommend just earning by order. I've found I make more money that way, so I would just recommend you go with that. So you'll hit start dash, and this will bring you to the page where you actually start getting orders. And what's also nice is that it shows you where in your area is busiest. So it's generally a good idea to kind of get close to wherever the hotspots are, then you can get more and better orders. Now let's talk about orders. So DoorDash will give you some key information about each order you get that you can use to evaluate whether or not it's worth taking. And what is really nice about DoorDash is you can choose to accept or decline any offer at any time. First, it shows you how much you'll get paid for the order. Second, it shows how many miles you'll have to drive and the map of the route. Third, you can see the restaurant you're picking up from. And fourth, you can see how many items you'll be picking up. And you can use all of these to gauge whether or not it's worth taking any particular order. A really good place to start is just by looking at the mile to dollar ratio. So essentially, if you're getting paid $1.50 per mile, then that means it's generally a pretty good order. So for instance, say I was getting paid $6 and I only had to drive 3 miles. That would be, a pretty good order, and I would probably take that. Whereas on the flip side, if say I had to drive 12 miles and I was only getting paid, $4, then that would be a bad order and I should not take that order. And honestly, you could just stop the video right here and just use that rule alone and make a pretty good amount of money on DoorDash. That's a really good place to start. But I do have a couple extra tips to really help you maximize how much money you're gonna be making. Two other things I like to consider when evaluating orders. First, the route. So sometimes, especially around rush hour, around dinner time, there can be really bad traffic, especially if it's a higher mile order. Sometimes I will actually just pull out Google Maps and check and make sure there's not really bad traffic on the freeway or wherever the route might take me. And that could influence whether or not it's actually gonna be worth it to take that order or just wait for something that doesn't go that way. And the second other thing I like to think about is the restaurant that I'll be picking up from. So this is definitely something you kind of have to have some experience before you really can use this much, but I definitely make a mental note as I work of which restaurants have longer wait times and which have shorter wait times, because the longer the wait is, the less money you're gonna make. So for instance, I no longer go to the Taco Bell in my area because it's just not worth it. The wait time is always way longer than it should be, and it's just a waste of time. So as you work, really just kind of think about where is taking longer and where's faster. It's really just gonna depend on your area and on the restaurants in your area. And the last thing I like to think about is the size of the order. Now this one doesn't matter as much because DoorDash does allow extra time if it's a big order, but especially if it's gonna be busy at a particular restaurant, it can mean it can take a lot longer to prepare, a really big order. So just watch out for that. It doesn't matter as much in my opinion, but it is still something to look out for. All right, so now you've accepted an order, and that actually doesn't mean your work is quite done yet. I mean, obviously you still have to do the delivery, but there are still some things that you can do to make sure that you're still being as profitable as you possibly can be. So sometimes you'll show up at a restaurant and realize there's already like 4 DoorDashers waiting for their food, and it's busy and it just seems like it's gonna take a long time. Luckily, DoorDash gives you the option to unassign an order after you've already accepted it, and it is a good idea to use that sometimes, not too much, but definitely where you realize it's probably going to be a while. It's generally a good idea just unassign it and continue waiting for other orders. But if you do decide to wait for an order, and if it's a particularly long wait, I would recommend actually just reaching out to the customer and letting them know that it's taking longer than you expected, and you're still going to be on your way as soon as you can, because it'll help with your ratings a lot, and they might even increase the tip You never know, but it is just a good idea. It's good customer service to do so. So I would recommend doing that. And just a few more things I'd like to mention. There are some types of orders that you won't get quite as often, but they still do happen. So there are sometimes multiple orders stacked into one, stacked orders. Those can be really good, so long as they were kind of good orders to begin with. Some of my highest paying times have been when I've had stacked orders. So don't be afraid to do those, just so long as it makes sense. Miles to dollar ratio is still good. It's a good restaurant, so on and so forth. You will also get store orders sometimes, and this actually happens after you get a red card, is what it's called, from DoorDash, and that is essentially a credit card that you can use to pay for DoorDash orders. And sometimes they'll actually have you go to like Walgreens or even Target and actually go in and find and purchase a few items that are listed on your phone. And these orders can be good because they generally have higher tips and higher base pay, but they can also take a lot of extra time, especially if things are out of stock or whatever it might be. So just keep that into consideration. I'm generally a little bit more discriminatory with these types of orders just because I know that there's a possibility that it could take a lot longer than just a regular order, but they still can be very good. So keep that in mind. And then after you've been door dashing for a little bit, you will at a certain point have an opportunity to try to make it into the Top Dasher program. And this is something that there's a little bit of a debate about on the internet. And some people say it's worth it and some people say it isn't. I think it really depends on your area. I am personally not a Top Dasher because essentially there's some minimum requirements that you have to meet that in my opinion just aren't worth it. But that is something I would look into after you've hit your 200th delivery, is when you can start being eligible for that program. So I just look into it yourself. All right, so those are all my tips. I guess I'll just address how much I make personally. So kind of depending on the day and when I'm working, I will normally make anywhere from $20 to $30 an hour. And then obviously I have to pay for gas as well. So that generally takes it to, I really average around 20 an hour, which is honestly not bad for what it is. DoorDash, while it's a great gig for someone who likes driving and is a little bit more on the introverted side like me, it is still just another job, and you still have to do work, and it won't make you rich really quick. But what is really nice is you've got that flexibility, and I just really like driving, so it's a good job for me. So I highly recommend everyone go out there and give it a shot and see what you think, and see if you can maybe make some decent income doing so. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Okay. Gosh, it's hot.